everyone and welcome back to me talking about movies. Today I'm talking about the New Mutants. So New Mutants, the final X-Men movie released from 20th Century Fox, and it's been a wild ride. It feels like it took an eternity for this movie to be released because of all the delays. I think it was supposed to come out in 2018 and it came out this year, 2020. On a side note, when I was at cinemas at the beginning of the year and I saw the new poster claiming that the movie will be released in April, I said to my friend, you know what, I believe it when I've sat through the credits. And I think I've jinxed it because it got delayed again because of the pandemic, but here we are, it got finally released. I will just talk about the movie in general and then rant about the entire X-Men franchise. Let's get it started. So first of all, The New Mutants isn't the worst X-Men movie. If anyone tells you it's terrible or worse than X-Men Origins Wolverine or Dark Phoenix, they're lying. The movie is mediocre. It's not bad, it's not good. It just exists in this void. Maybe that's bad, maybe that's good, but to say the movie is worse than some of the worst X-Men movies is just not correct. No. Yeah, I mean, the only crime I can accuse the New Mutants of is being annoyingly mediocre. Whether it's the plot or the visuals or the sound, it just lacks something. It's missing the seasoning. It's like, it's bland. What makes it especially disappointing and sad is that you could see the potential it could have had. Because there are some interesting scenes, some great scenes. I don't know how to put it. It's just not engaging. It is just what it is. I mean, the movie is so mediocre and you can see how it wastes its potential right in front of your eyes. All the characters are incredibly compelling and would have made for a great story, especially with all the trauma, but they decided to just brush over that. It's just like, okay, we have these 5 characters, they are interesting, but we're not gonna give you any reason to root for them, to be invested in the story, because we're just not going to develop them any further. It's just all on the surface level. Tying into this weird shallow character business is the fact that the tone of the movie isn't consistent. It was announced that it was going to be a horror movie and then it ended up being a young adult coming of age story, which in itself would not have been bad, but because of those two different directions, you can see that it doesn't do either of it well enough for it to be good. Personally, I would have loved if it became a full-fledged horror movie. I mean, all the groundwork was there. We have the setting, the asylum, we have Dani's incredible powers of how she can bring the deepest, darkest fears of the others to life, especially Illyana's fear of these creepy men with the smiley faces. They are straight up terrifying. And if they had used them correctly, it would have been a fantastic movie, but they didn't. The only good thing New Mutants does is the romance between Dani and Rain. There's finally some LGBT plus representation for the X-Men, and no, I'm not counting Eric and Charles, because after First Class they were forcibly shoved back into the closet. The X-Men were always used as a metaphor for everyone who is different, who doesn't fit in or doesn't stick to the status quo, and for the entire franchise to not acknowledge that openly in 13 movies is just majorly disappointing. And so cheers for Rain and Dani. I mean, it's too little and too late, but at least it was there. But however, as I said, the movie isn't bad. It's just there. It doesn't evoke any emotions. And maybe that's even worse, because sometimes it's just fun to hate a movie, because I love watching Origins Wolverine and hating every piece of it. And while watching The New Mutants, I was sitting there in the theater, mildly interested, but most of the time I was just there like, okay, I guess this is happening, okay, we're doing that, okay, it's over, thank you, goodbye. This has been a very short review. My verdict is, if you're an X-Men hardcore fan, don't watch the movie. I mean, if you watched all the X-Men movies, you should probably watch that one just so you've seen them all. But for anyone else, this movie is really one you should skip because there's nothing to it, which is kind of sad. Leading up to New Mutants, I tried to watch all the X-Men movies in chronological order. You can imagine what kind of pain that is if you've seen just one movie. I tried to make sense of the order. I started with Wolverine Origins, then X-Men First Class, X-Men, X-Men 2, The Last Stand, The Wolverine, Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, Dark Phoenix, then the New Mutants. And as of this video I haven't been able to watch Logan and Deadpool 1 and 2. The reason I placed Deadpool 1 and 2 at the end is because Deadpool 2 spoils the ending of Logan, and both Deadpool movies don't really fit into a chronological order. They just exist, and Deadpool, being the fourth wall breaker, doesn't fit into the rest of the timeline. The X-Men. We had some highs, we had some lows, some very low lows. And watching all these movies is a roller coaster, because it goes from down here to up here, and then it makes... I should have started here because it's mirrored on the camera. Days of Future Past, probably the best one in the entire franchise, does almost everything right. But then again we have movies like X-Men Wolverine Origins or The Last Stand or Dark Phoenix, which are just flat out bad. Not just because sometimes the movie doesn't know what it tries to do. There's so much meddling in the plot and character-wise that it's hard to understand what's going on. I love how without the first movie, the entire superhero movie age we're in right now wouldn't exist. It really sets the tone for everything that's to follow. The MCU, the DCU, and all the standalone superhero movies wouldn't have been made, or nobody would have dared to make them if it weren't for the success of the first two X-Men movies. This franchise shaped the last 2 decades in pop culture, and it's disappointing and sad that the last 2 movies were so badly received. Going forward now with the acquisition of 20th Century Fox by Disney, the Mutants back at Marvel, their film rights, I really hope that they manage to do something new, that they use less known characters than were used in the movies, so that it doesn't feel like they're repeating everything again. I would love for Marvel and Disney to take a similar approach as was taken with the New Mutants, but just not as bad. Those 4 characters were really underground, not well known, and thus the expectations were lower, but the X-Men have so many interesting characters, and it would be really exciting to see them in their own stories instead of, again, the original X-Men team with Professor X, Mystique, Storm, Cyclops, Jean and the Wolverine, because we've seen that. I don't know, it's just... we have these movies if we want to watch them, and it's time for something new. I think it will be interesting as to how Marvel will introduce the X-Men into the MCU. If it will be done with parallel universes, with different timelines. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is one of the big stepping points, or could be one of the big stepping points. It will be fun to see how it happens, or what happens. I don't know what to say after seeing all these movies. So yeah, that's it. 20 years, a 20-year-long franchise, had its highs and lows. And I have no clue how to wrap this all up in a neat little bow. I guess I'm still not processing that this age has come to an end, this era of X-Men movies. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Like it, subscribe. If you're in the same weird post-X-Men depression, whatever, as I am, share your thoughts with me in the comments, or do it on Instagram or Twitter. I will leave the usernames in the description, and I hope to see you soon with another video. Peace out. See you later, bye.